Hi, darlings. I am absolutely delighted to have a dear friend here with me today, Lyn Nichols, who is such a dear, dear heart, and she is going to share some of her wisdom with us around supportive whole foods and nutritions and the ancient wisdom of using these foods to heal and some of her story and how she supported herself through the time of transition into this glorious place in her life that she's at right now, which is through her menopause years. Thank you, Lyn. It's so beautiful to have you here.
Thank you. Beautiful to be here with you.
Lynnie, there's a few questions that I ask everyone, and it's a way to thread the conversations together. And it's the first question is, can you remember your first bleed? When you were a young girl, your menarche, and how was that for you?
So I don't actually know how old I was, but I'm thinking maybe possibly 13. And it was pretty scary because my mum never really spoke about things like that. And so I remember coming home and having to find these pads in the bathroom, and they were just so massive, and I felt like I was walking around like, you know, everybody was staring at me like everyone would know. It was really, you know, these days it's so much more discreet, but back then, that was a while ago now, there was, you know, it was mainly, well, for me, you know, what the way it started was just using these massive big pads. So it was, yeah, it was a really, it was kind of a little bit traumatic because I felt like everyone knew.
Yeah.
And, you know, back then it was also, it wasn't really something to celebrate. It was almost like it was something to be ashamed of.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering, Lyn, if like that, how that shame or that traumatic experience affected your relationship with your menstrual cycle.
Yeah, well, I guess it was just something that was always like, you know, we didn't talk about it. We didn't celebrate it. I'm loving seeing the way things are now, and people are celebrating being a woman and really embracing being the feminine. In the last 4 years that I've been living in Bali, that's kind of been my journey. And I just think, wow, I'm even getting goosebumps saying that. I just think, what a shame that most of my life it was just like, oh yeah, you hide the fact that you're menstruating.
Yeah.
It's not something that's kind of openly discussed and celebrated, which now I see, you know, it's the most beautiful thing to be a woman. You know, we should be celebrating that and honoring ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Lyn. And I mean, celebrating and honouring all times of our life as women is such a rite of passage, and it leads me to ask you about this next, or this rite of passage that you've, you know, recently crossed into, this time of being in menopause. Yay, well done. And I'm wondering whether, woo! I love that you are such a light, you're such a shining light, you're like have this enthusiasm and curiosity for life. So, you know, knowing you really does give me, yeah, a sense of inspiration that there is life, there is an incredible life. And this is the thing, like, we have not been shared, it's not been shared that there is like this incredible life to live after you're bleeding. You know, we've often been, well, for so many years, believed that like once we stop bleeding, we're dried up old hags. Well, you, my dear, are like so not that. So I'm celebrating.
Well, I've got to say thank you about that one.
So not that. So celebrating you in all your juiciness, your lusciousness, and your sassiness. And you know, I would love to know, what are the things, what are the secrets, what is the support? And I know that you are such a huge believer, and you really do walk your talk as far as like your nutrition goes. So is there anything that you could share with, you know, what worked for you? What do you think of it?
Yeah. Well, I remember coming into that time, I remember because I was 40, maybe 46, I think, when I started to really feel quite strong hormonal imbalance. Like I would walk on the beach because I realized that meditation and exercise was really, really helpful. But I remember I would get up around 5:30 and be ready for my walk on the beach, and I would eat dark chocolate. I would go straight to my fridge some mornings because I was like, whoa, like something dark's come into my body overnight. And so for me, the answer is dark chocolate. And I make my own chocolate, which I'd love to share a recipe with you later. But I would have a few squares of this dark chocolate, and then off I'd go on my beach walk. And I truly believe that I don't know what I would have done without dark chocolate and peppermint oil. And the thing with peppermint oil, the ancient wisdom around that is pepper means lively and mint means mental. So, you know, when our hormones are out of balance, then it affects us mentally. And so peppermint actually means lively mentally. So that was the ancient wisdom. Another ancient wisdom was that when we're feeling like that, this is where the saying "go nuts" came from, because they knew anything that was anything we were feeling mentally, whether it's memory loss or hormonal imbalance, feeling, you know, highs and lows mentally, they would just say it's time to go nuts and pick out on any and all nuts. And there's certain nuts that I really used, and one of them was walnut. It's actually the signature for the brain. And when you look at a walnut, have a look at a walnut. You've got the hard shell that looks like the skull. You crack that open, it's got the left and right hemisphere, it's all wrinkled, it looks like a brain. And science has proven that the oils in the walnut are just so amazing for the brain. And so I would really focus on that and put that into my chocolate. And there's one other part of the brain called the amygdala, that the signature food for that is, you know, like the walnut is to the brain, is almond. And so I think maybe in Latin or something, amygdala actually meant almond. But yeah, so it's the signature food that supports the amygdala, which is actually the emotional, you know, has to do with our emotions. So I would put almonds and walnuts into my dark chocolate, and even a dose of peppermint oil. I'd do the peppermint oil on my temples, behind my neck, and even just a drop in my hand and rub it and sniff it as I was walking. And it's seriously, I feel like it got me through peri-menopause. Yeah.
Amazing.
Does that answer the question?
Oh, more than answers the question, Lyn. And I feel like there was a piece that I may have missed when I introduced you. And if anybody hasn't met you, Lyn has, while we're waiting for the internet to catch up, the most incredible.
I can hear you again now.
Yep, you're back with me. Lyn has the most incredible menu.
We're back.
Yep, we're back. I'm just reintroducing you because I didn't share that you are creators of menus and these healing whole foods. And she has the most incredible chocolate that you'll ever try at a place called Ra Cafe.
Sorry, I'm only getting little bits of what you're saying there. I don't think the internet's very...
We're back. Yes, we're back. Being in Bali, we have the joys of Bali Wi-Fi, and I've got Lyn hooked up to a modem that's hooked up to something else that's hooked up to something else. So we're Bali-fying the whole interview today. I was just reintroducing you, Lyn, and sharing that you designed the menus for this incredible cafe that's in the jungle in the middle of really North Bali, so far from anything, and the food in this cafe is so incredibly healing. It's so incredibly nurturing. It is like some of the best whole foods I've ever had in anywhere in the world. And you also make your own chocolate there. So it's super famous for the jungle chocolate. So there's a tip: if you get back to Bali, come and visit the home of the jungle chocolate. And in the cafe, like just looking around, you can see how committed you are to healing through whole foods. And your first book is there. And I'd love you to share some of the inspiration in the healing through whole foods journey, and a little bit about your first book, and then we're going to talk about your new book. Lyn, you may have put yourself on mute. Just check that for me, darling. Awesome.
So, yeah, well, the inspiration for the Warung came about when I was doing, because I'm a big advocate for water fasting. We use that healing, that's part of the ancient wisdom of healing the body naturally. And so I was doing a 10-day water fast, and just seeing all these people walking to the waterfall, and I thought to myself, wow, there's nowhere that for someone to have a nice healthy drink, or you know, to buy some chocolate or whatever it may be, have a nice healthy meal. And it was kind of like a knowing. It wasn't even a thing, should I, shouldn't I? It was like, you have to do this so that people can come and spend time in the beautiful nature there, healing themselves, and go into, you know, whether it be fasting or just eating raw foods or juice fasting, have a nice way to go in and come out of that gently with supportive food. And for 10 years I've been running holistic healing retreats in Australia and recently here in Bali, and I just became, over the time, more and more passionate about showing people that you could eat healthy food, but it can be absolutely delicious, and it can be vegan, and it can be sugar free. And so that actually has become my passion, of showing people, you know, when I hear people say, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and I'm like, yep, no sugar, no bad fats, no preservatives, no colors, no bad things. It's, you can eat this chocolate for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I did that for so long. For so long, I would get up and people would come into the Warung, and I'd be sitting there eating at, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, double chocolate pie or jungle chocolate and having a green tea. And they're like, I'm going to do that.
Music to my ears.
Yeah. So even my staff there, they're like, yeah, this is chocolate that's good for the body and the soul. And I think part of why the food tastes so good is because everyone that works there loves what they're doing. And I really believe that's absolutely imperative. You know, everything is vibration. So whatever feeling and energy is going into the food. And I really think that that's part of why, you know, when I think about it, I think, I mean, the food's pretty simple, but why are people saying, whoa, what's going on here? What are you doing to this food? Where are you getting your produce? And, you know, I've had people say, well, yeah, well, it's, you're not doing anything different to what other people are doing, but there is a big difference, kind of thing. And you know, we only use stainless steel. I'm really, it's a very holistic approach. So, but yeah, it is a passion, and also I'm about quick, easy meals so that people know that they don't have to spend hours in the kitchen. They just, you can whip, especially the chocolate, you whip that up in 5 minutes. It's amazing. So, you know, when you need chocolate now, not in 2 hours.
I'm looking forward to getting that recipe from you. So, Lyn, I'd love to circle back to these whole foods and these maybe share some of these quick recipes or ideas that you know of that can also support the hormonal shifts and changes in a woman's journey. Like
Sure.
I know you shared the nuts, the peppermint, but we were talking earlier about how you're able to support the pineal gland and the hypothalamus and the endocrine system. So I'd love you to speak into a little around that if you're feeling. Yeah.
Sure. So anciently they understood that every plant and whole food had a geometric presentation that correlated to the geometric pattern of a body part or organ in the body, and that those foods were actually medicine to that body part. So we talked about the almond for the amygdala and the walnut for the brain. So that's actually medicine for the brain and the amygdala. But when we're looking at the hormones, we're actually looking at the endocrine system. So there's a signature food that's medicine to each and every one of those glands. So when we're suffering a lot of hormone imbalance, the pituitary gland, it's a bit of a tongue twister, that one, but it's actually, that's the master gland for all of the different hormone, glands that secrete hormones. So we really want to make sure that our pituitary gland is looked after. So the signature food for that is blueberries and also macadamia nut. Yeah. And then we have the pineal gland. The pineal secretes melatonin, and what that does, it actually regulates our sleep patterns. And so, for me, just all my life, I've needed more sleep than what other people do. I remember even being at high school, having to go to bed before, we were in a hostel situation, and I would always be in bed before everyone else. Yeah. So for me, if I don't have good sleep, then that really affects my hormones. Obviously, it's affecting the pineal gland, or the pineal is affecting my body. So, so the pineal gland, the signature food for that is the pine nut. So we can put pine nuts into our smoothies, and even the seeds of rock melon, that's another signature for the pineal gland. So yeah, we can use all of these signature foods as medicine and just have them daily, especially leading up to, menstruation time. We come down to the thyroid, and the signature food there that's medicine to the thyroid is the mushroom, and especially the round mushrooms like the portobello. And we, so if you were to eat 1 to 2 cups full of mushroom for, say if you've got a overactive or underactive thyroid, 1 to 2 cups of mushrooms every day for around 90 days is said to pretty much heal the thyroid. But of course, it's taking a holistic approach as well. So you've got to look at the any emotional blockages that's causing, a degenerative memory that's causing a blockage in the chakra system. And then, so it's a holistic approach. But so mushrooms for the thyroid. And then we have the ovaries. So the signature food for that is olives. When you look at the womb, I find this one amazing. I just love it so much. If you cut open an avocado, what does it look like? It's in the shape of a uterus. The seed in the middle is like a baby in the uterus. Yeah. And it's said to take exactly 9 months from fertilization to the time when that avocado is ready for eating. And it's the signature for the uterus, and said to, through pregnancy, that it's a great thing to eat that often, and even post-pregnancy, post-birth, I should say, to lose the body fat. Yeah, avocado is incredible. So we can bring all of these foods into our diet, and what we're doing is we're supporting the endocrine glands and the whole endocrine system. So there's other foods as well. I've given you the signature for each particular gland, but there's other foods that support that whole system. And these are, or some of these are, all of the one-seeded fruits. So you can look at your plums and your nectarines and your cherries and your peaches, anything that has, avocado, olives, they're all one seed. So they're all very supportive to the endocrine gland and the reproductive system.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, so it's really when you start to understand that, there is food that's medicine for the body, it takes a lot of fear out of things, because you know that nature's provided everything that we need to not just survive, but absolutely thrive. And so we can use this as medicine and have this knowledge to, you know, when there's something going on in the body, you look at what body system needs support, and then the signature foods. Also, you can look at the system, and so we're talking about the endocrine system. So the chakra that correlates to the endocrine system is the sacral chakra. So the color there is orange. So we can also use all orange foods to support the endocrine system. So yeah, there's different levels, and when you put all of that together, your endocrine system's going to love you.
So beautiful, such beautiful wisdom, Lyn, and I love the way that you share this with such love. Like, I can really feel the frequency, and you mentioned that that frequency of love that's put into your food, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I would love for you to share a little about your books. I know I touched on it a moment ago. The book that's in the cafe now has some of the most incredible quick recipes that I've ever been able to use. And you also have something new coming out. So if you felt to speak to that, I know that everybody would love to hear it.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So my first book is called The Recipe, and it's Heal Mind, Body and Spirit. So, but it's actually a lot more than a recipe book. I really have the strongest belief in taking a holistic approach to healing, as I've mentioned. And so I go through all of the organs in that book. And so let's just say we're going to take one of the endocrine glands. So we've got the pituitary. If you're having problems with your hormones and you want to look at how you can support the pituitary gland and the endocrine system, you can turn to that page and you can see what the possible or probable psychosomatic cause would be that you're having issues with the pituitary. So this is Louise Hay's work and looking at the psychosomatic for each dis-ease in the body. So you can find the probable cause, and then you'll find which chakra is imbalanced or possibly blocked and needs clearing and cleansing. And then you'll find the signature foods to that we can use as medicine to support that actual gland. And then you'll find all the other foods that support that system. And then I've actually used those foods and created a recipe, so you can actually make the healing recipe. So that was my first book. It was quite simple, but very, very holistic. Everything is there, but it was mainly based just on the organs. My next book that's coming out, hopefully in the next couple of months, is again called The Recipe, but this is Healing in the Age of Aquarius. And so it's all of the same wisdom, but this time I'm co-authoring that with an amazing man, Don Tolman, who's all about healing with whole foods, thunder, and the ancient wisdom. So he's taught me everything I know about healing with whole foods and ancient wisdom has been Don's work. And so he's co-authored this with me, and we're also including in this book all of the dis-eases of every, because that's all it is, a dis-ease. You know, we know it as a disease today and think it's something big and scary, but in truth, it's just dis-ease in that organ and body system. And so when we take the approach of just bringing balance back, then everything is healable. So yeah, this one we actually have the epicures, Don's epicures or healing protocol for every disease of every system as well. So you can not just find out the emotional cause, the probable emotional cause, the signature food that will heal the actual organ, the signature foods that heal that and support the system, the chakra that would be in need of cleansing, clearing, balancing, but you also get the epicure for that dis-ease, and again, a recipe using the main foods that Don suggests in the healing protocol. So yeah, I am so excited about this book. I was just reading back through it yesterday, just a little bit that the designer has sent me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. Because it's just so holistic. I know that sounds really weird, but you know, I'm reading Don's work and going, wow, this is incredible. So yeah, it's pretty cool that I'm excited about my own book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, what a beautiful thing that you're able to read it back to yourself as the witness or
Yeah.
the reader, and be delighted and, you know, excited to be sharing it. It just, again, you're in this taught and field of love. You're reading about the recipes and the healing, and then you're cooking them and eating them as well. Like, this is why I feel like when I see you, you just, I mentioned it a moment ago, you walk your talk. You are like such a living inspiration of what, you know, being in right relationship with food and the earth, and, you know, having this holistic approach to being in every aspect of your life truly is. And I feel like the wisdom that you have to share is so needed right now, more than ever on the planet, with all of these things that are going on. And I feel like to just speak into it very gently for just a moment, and if you wouldn't mind, and I hadn't prepared this, but if it just feels right, if you wouldn't mind to share the importance of being as organic as you can. And the GMOs and things like this, and we can maybe circle it back to the effect that it does have on a woman's hormones as well.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, the ancient wisdom is there is only one cause of dis-ease in the body, and that's chaos at the atomic level, that then moves into the molecular level, the cellular level, and then manifests into the physical body. So what we're dealing with today is so much toxicity in the air, in the water. Like, you know, we can't get away from that. It's just the system. It's the sickness industry, unfortunately. But I feel really excited that I believe that's all about to change. But in the meantime, it's so important to detoxify the body from those, you know, the chemicals that have built up in our body, and to be aware of not putting anything else into the body. Like, we've been bombarded with so much. So we've got this chaos at the atomic level, and then the reason for the chaos is toxicity and deficiency. So it could be emotional toxicity, which is my belief for a lot of dis-ease, is it's an emotional toxin. But maybe years ago, I would say 99%. But these days, you know, maybe it's only 50% of the cause, because we're just so bombarded in every way. So, yeah, our bodies are toxic, and, you know, we can't live a beautiful, vibrant life with a toxic body that's acidic, because we're going to get sick. So it's really important to be as organic as we can, to not be putting those products, those chemicals in our body. You know, we could be so toxic, and it just takes one more thing to create dis-ease in the body or hormonal imbalance. So yeah, I just think it's really, really important to come back to nature, and using organic foods. Did that answer? Sorry, did that answer the question?
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I feel like it's something that we know about and we're aware of, and many supermarkets in Australia, for example, have an option for organic, but, you know, we don't often know why. We don't often know why it's better. We may see that it's more expensive and we go past the aisle. But I think just explaining about having that level of toxicity in the body can lead to, you know, getting us out of balance, where dis-ease can come in. So it's all about like keeping it balanced. So thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Can I just add to that? Like, when we have these chemicals over and over, what happens is it builds up in the body into the toxicity is called plaque. And so our colon is a bit like the feet with reflexology points. And so this plaque, and there's testimonials of people that have released it through colon cleansing, that they can't even cut it with a serrated knife. It becomes very hard. And so if that's sitting on the colon over an area of the endocrine glands, then of course they're not going to be working optimally, and so this plaque's going to affect that particular system. So again, that's what happens when we have processed foods and chemicals. It actually gets stored in the body and becomes this plaque that then blocks the tube and creates disease of whichever organ and body system. So yeah, it's really important. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I could talk to you for days about these things, and I have a feeling that this might be part one of and maybe an ongoing thing that we can explore. And you mentioned at the beginning of the call that you have a recipe.
Oh yes, the recipe.
Circling back to chocolate.
Just for you and your listeners, the other day I'm like, right, what's going to support the endocrine system? So has everyone got their pen and paper ready? Do you want to write it down? So 3/4 cup coconut oil. I'm going to call this the happy hormone chicky chocolate.
Happy hormone chicky chocolate. Okay, I'm writing this down.
Yeah, happy hormone chicky chocolate. So we have 3/4 cup of coconut oil, but make sure that you get a really good quality coconut oil and cold pressed virgin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important. We're going to use almond butter because the almond, as I said before, will support the amygdala, which is all about the emotions. So 1/2 cup of almond butter. So you can make your own or buy organic. Yeah. And then we're going to use 1 full cup of walnuts, which support the brain. And if you can get blueberries, dried blueberries, not the fresh ones because it'll make the chocolate very wet.
Yeah.
So dried blueberries and put in let's say 1/2 cup of dried blueberries. I'm kind of making this up as I go, but it'll be delicious. And then 1 cup of raisins, because I use raisins in all of my chocolate as a sweetener. Because as I mentioned earlier, we don't use any chocolate. Any chocolate. We don't use any sugar. But also get a raw honey and put 2 tablespoons of raw honey.
Yeah.
And then you can use, depends if you're a real chalky lover, you can do a full cup, but it'll be very dark and strong. I like to use 3/4 cup of organic cacao. So if you throw all of that together in a bowl, mix it up, and just pop it into in Bali. We use banana leaf, and we roll that up into a cone, and then fill the banana cone with chocolate. And I created this because people are buying it in a jungle, and if they take it away, it's organic, they can throw away the thing. But you could just put it in just put it in a dish and cut it into squares. You don't have to do it our style. And pop it in the freezer or the fridge for maybe ½ hour. That's all it takes. That's what I mean. It's so quick. And you can eat it as you go. So if you need chalky now, you can eat it liquid form, and then you put it in the freezer, and you can have it solid form it'll last. Well, it won't last because you'll eat it before it goes off. You'll eat it before the day's out.
It doesn't last. I know.
Yeah. There's nothing at all in there that's bad for you. You can seriously eat it all day, every day. Yeah.
I will. You know it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lyn. Thank you so much. I've written that recipe down, and I'm going to double check it with you.
Yeah. Okay.
And if anybody would like a copy of that, or I'll pop it in the notes. And I'd also love to pop in the notes as well that if anyone feels to connect with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll keep in touch about links to your book and things like that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, such a beautiful, beautiful thing that you share, and I encourage and support anybody that's watching that feels to connect with Lyn and follow her work. It is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. And it's been beautiful talking to you as always.
Pleasure. I'm going to stop our recording.
Okay.
Okay.